Hello, fellow bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and I can't believe it's Nonfiction November already. So I do not know where the month of October has gone. More on that in another video, I'm sure. I have a whole backlog of videos and things that I'd like to film and do and post, but who knows when that's happening. So I thought I would sit down with you guys today and just take a look at what I plan on reading in November, my tentative TBR, if you will, and share with you some of the fantastic books I took out from the library. I haven't been back to the library since COVID, and this was my first time back. I did curbside pickup. I picked out all my books ahead of time and just kind of stopped by, grabbed the books, and took them to go. So it is kind of disappointing not to be able to browse in the library. That is one of my favorite parts of the library experience, but it's okay. I still have a lot of exciting books to show you. So Olive and her whole team this year for Nonfiction November have come up with some amazing prompts. As always, they are creative and insightful one-word prompts that you can really easily interpret and fit any book into. So this year, those prompts are time, movement, buzz, and discovery, and I've gotten really good at interpreting them, and I'm actually having trouble deciding which of these books fit into each category. I can see them easily fitting their way into many different categories, as you'll see. So on to the books. So the first book is one that I have picked up from the library, and that is Mudlark, In Search of London's Past Along the River Thames. And this one is by Lara Maiklem. It's all about mudlarking, which is something I did not previously know what it was, but it is where you just kind of wade through the mud of the River Thames in different locations and pull out artifacts and objects from times past. So I put this one in the category of discovery because it is all about the author's journey, mudlarking, and seeking these long lost objects and really discovering London's past through these objects. I find it fascinating, and it seems like what she does is she breaks up the book into areas of the river that she explores. So the first chapter, it seems, is a commentary on what mudlarking is and just a little introduction, but the rest of them seem to be locations along the River Thames. We've got Titlehead, Trig Lane, Vauxhall, I've heard of that one, Tower Beach, London Bridge, and so she just takes us on this fantastic journey and examines and interprets all of these different objects she's found, and I'm really excited to take a look at this one. The next book I took out from the library is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, the epic story of America's Great Migration. So this is all about the really mostly undocumented journey of African Americans from the South to northern cities between the years of, I believe it's 1915 and 1970. And it's just not something you learn much about in school and not something that is talked much about in American history. And it's a very important subject to examine. So that's what Isabel Wilkerson does in this book, and I'm really excited for it. I've put it into movement because it is movement in two ways. It is the physical movement of people from the South to the North. But I think this book also ties in really nicely with a different type of movement, a more social type of movement of the civil rights movement. So I'm really excited to give this one a try. The inside cover of this one is really captivating. I will just give you a little taste. It says, Wilkerson brilliantly captures her subjects' first treacherous and exhausting cross-country trips by car and train, and their new lives in colonies that grew into ghettos, as well as how they changed their new cities with Southern food, faith, and culture, and improved them with discipline, drive, and hard work. Both a riveting microcosm and a major assessment, The Warmth of Other Suns is a bold, remarkable work, a superb account of the unrecognized immigration within our own land. Through the breadth of its narrative, the beauty of its writing, the depth of its research, and the fullness of the people and lives portrayed herein, this book is destined to become a classic. So yes, I think it is worth reading. It's very long though, so it will be something to get through this month. And my next pick from the library is An Elegant Madness, High Society in Regency, England by Venetia Murray. Now, I heard about this book for the first time on Heather from Fresh Parchment's channel. Her channel is amazing. If you have not heard of her, please do go check her out. I feel like we have practically the same taste in books, and she's becoming a fast friend. I can't express my love for her channel enough, so do go check her out. I've been told that this book is all about the buzz and hot gossip of the Regency era. The Regency Society was notorious for scandals and gossip and bed hopping and gambling and all sorts of really exciting gossip. I imagine this to be the early 19th century version of People magazine or, you know, our celebrity gossip. So I'm really excited to read this one and learn more about the time period, as well as just really enjoy learning about these people's lives. And next, sticking with the buzzword of buzz, if you will, I have the essays of E.B. White. I've heard a lot about E.B. White's essays, though I don't know much about E.B. White besides my adventures in elementary school with Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little and Trumpet of the Swan, which I enjoyed immensely, but I'm very curious to see what he does in the form of an essay, because I've heard his essays praised as some of the best contemporary essays of our time, and I'm interested in hearing his perspective. Not too long ago, I read Ursula K. Le Guin's set of essays, No Time to Spare, and they were absolutely breathtaking and made me think more about essays as a genre and, you know, self-discovery through the essay. So I know I just said this one was buzz, but I suppose it could also be discovery. And yeah, I'm interested in seeing more of E.B. White's work. Another book that I might pick up for buzz is Educated by Tara Westover. This book has been quite the buzz in the bookish community, on BookTube, in my daily life. I've heard people just rave about this book. The premise sounds really interesting. From what I understand, it's about Tara and her life and how she was born to survivalist parents and homeschooled and really sheltered from the real world and reality for a very long time, and about her discovering the world and coming into her own and ending up in Harvard and Cambridge and giving herself an education. So should be an interesting one. I know it's been going around everywhere on YouTube, BookTube, the works, so I'm sure you've heard of it before at this point. And yeah, I'm going to move on to another book now. Next up, I have the first book in a series of journals by Madeleine L'Engle, and this is called A Circle of Quiet. And I'm really interested in reading journals, diaries, things like that from famous authors. It's interesting to hear their thoughts as they go through life. This would be a great book for discovery. I think it's about self-discovery for Madeleine L'Engle, but it's also about me being able to discover her life through her words, and I find that really special. The first sentence of this book starts out, "We are 4 generations under one roof this summer, from infant Charlotte to almost 90 great-grandmother." I just love that idea of spending a summer with so many different generations and life experiences, and it's just a really great start to this book. I'm really excited to keep reading it. The next book I have is Letters to a Young Poet by Rielka. I'm not that familiar with Rilke at all, and I feel like this might be an interesting place to start. I've seen some quotes and snippets of his poetry actually on Tumblr years ago and was really taken with them. And I'd love to explore Rilke and his works more. Especially, I've heard a lot of buzz about this book, as well as just Rilke in general from Emmy and her channel. I'm interested in seeing how this little slim book of letters chronicles Rilke's relationship with a student when Rilke was quite young himself and had a lot of his best works still to come. And it's just his advice to another person. The two of them never actually met, but they cultivated this really strong relationship through this set of letters. So I'm interested in reading it. The next book I have is James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. This book very obviously fits the prompt of time, since it is in the title, but it also fits the prompt of movement, since it is a really important book in terms of the civil rights movement. Now, this book interested me because I've never actually read any James Baldwin before. However, I'm really interested in its sequel, or book that's actually a response to this book, which is The Fire This Time, which is a series of short stories, I believe, or essays that are put together by Jesmyn Ward. So I'm really interested in hearing what Jesmyn Ward has to say about this subject. I've read her fiction and I've loved her fiction, but I've never heard her speak about anything in a nonfiction format before. So I'm really interested in reading that book. But before I read The Fire This Time, I feel like I really need to read The Fire Next Time, as that book is a direct response to this one. And last but not least, I have The Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankapan. And this book is a book that I actually tried listening to on audiobook a while ago, and I couldn't get into the audiobook narration. So I saw this in the library's catalog and decided to pick it up. This book, from what I understand, is an attempt at telling history from a less Eurocentric point of view. And so it is a new history of the world, as it says. It tries to shed light on the history of Asia, the history of the Middle East, and eventually on the tie between Europe and the East through the Silk Roads and their intricate patterns of trade. So I actually think it's a really interesting book to think about. It's massive, so I'm interested in exactly what it decides to put in, but of course also interested in what it leaves out, because you could write books and books and books on what I just mentioned, and this book can't possibly include it all. So it should be a really interesting read. I don't know if I'll have time to get to it this month, to be honest. These were so many books, and I know that I'm only going to have time to read maybe 4 of them, 5 of them, if I'm having a very good reading month. So I'd be really curious to hear in the comments section what you guys are reading for Nonfiction November. Do you think any of these should take priority in my reading list? Are there any that you really want me to get to? Have you read any of them, and have you really enjoyed them in the past? I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts on Nonfiction November and these books. And until next time, I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!